Roads and bridges, broadband expansion, fixing potholes, repairing rusting bridges, fixing train tracks, increasing internet access for everybody. It all sounds pretty reasonable, right? Any country should have all that. Remember, Trump wanted to do infrastructure, and yet Pelosi impeachment never got it done. Well, tonight, I'm going to tell you what counts as infrastructure. The Republicans agreed to this without even ever having read a draft of the bill. It was put together mostly by the majority party's committee staff. Now, in June, a bipartisan group of senators led by Mitt Romney thought it was a good idea to engage with President Biden on this thing called an infrastructure bill that would cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, the deal included Biden's pledge, and they were all together in one room, that it would be a standalone. In other words, it wouldn't be linked with this $3.5 trillion or $4 trillion spendorama that the Democrats were cooking up to pass through this thing called reconciliation, which means they only need a simple majority. Of course, Biden is so out of it, he couldn't remember, though, what he said to whom about the negotiations, and so he ended up tipping the Democrats' hand.
Mr. President, you said you want both of these measures to come to you in tandem. Did you receive any assurances that that will happen? And how do you anticipate, what will you do
I control that. If they don't come, I'm not signing.
Of course, this made the Republicans look like Charlie Brown on their back with Pelosi as Lucy, grinning, holding the football.
Mr. President, do you support then Speaker Pelosi's stated plan to hold the bipartisan deal in the House until the Senate also passes reconciliation? Do you support that sequencing on her part?
Yes. Look, the bipartisan bill from the very beginning was understood there's going to have to be the second part of it. Not just sign the bipartisan bill and forgetting about the rest that I proposed.
Everyone knew there was always going to be another bill that was going to be linked to. Well, a few days later, Biden claimed he misspoke. But we all know what he said about the two bills really being one bill is the truth. In other words, if you vote for the infrastructure plan, which needs a filibuster-proof majority, you're effectively paving the way for this massive budget bill, multi-trillion-dollar extravaganza, creating brand new entitlement spending and transforming much of American society from top to bottom. Oh, and that bill, as I said, will only need to pass by a simple majority, you get it? But the Republicans had once again, looks like they'd been played. Remember, Pelosi, she doesn't mess around.
Let me be really clear on this. We will not take up a bill in the House until the Senate passes the bipartisan bill and a reconciliation bill. There ain't going to be an infrastructure bill unless we have the reconciliation bill passed by the United States Senate.
Ain't gonna be one. Now, again, she plays hardball while Republicans are waiting for a wiffle ball game to start. She's not taking up infrastructure until they get their gargantuan spending package through a simple majority vote. Simply put, by agreeing to this order of things, the Romney group gave up all of their leverage, as Democrats are able to bypass them entirely on their way to a simple majority vote on a $3.5 trillion package that no one's seen. Now, some of what we do know that will be included in this second bill: universal pre-K, free meals for all students, family medical leave, a pathway to citizenship for the DACA recipients, greener farming, and expansion of Medicare, and that's just the beginning. And today, more than a month after the Romney group met with Biden, the Democrats finally released their infrastructure bill. $110 billion, roads, bridges, major projects, $66 billion for railways, $65 billion for broadband, but that's not all. There were more gems buried in the text, which most senators obviously won't have the time to read. It's 2,700 pages. After all, it includes funds for new state-imposed carbon reduction requirements, $1 billion to the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is co-chaired by Joe Manchin's wife, millions for wildlife crossing structures. It refers to women as socially disadvantaged individuals, and in one part of the bill stipulates that gender identity will be a protected class under federal law. Of course, This is how it always goes, though, right? When one party has been given all the leverage, they get cocky and they go too far. But in this case, who's going to stop them? White House senior advisor Mike Donilon sent out a positively giddy note to Democrats today, in part saying President Biden continues to propose and deliver plans that the American people across party lines agree are good for the country. He's doing exactly what he said he'd do when he ran for the job, acting not as a president of the red or blue states, but a president of the United States. Well, amidst an unprecedented crisis of Biden's own making at the White House, amidst the new pessimism and confusion about Biden's handling of the COVID Delta variant and the border, it's breaking down. His approval numbers last week hit a low of 50%. But now, courtesy of the Romney Group, Republicans have given Biden bragging rights. They've given him a lifeline. He'll not only be able to claim a huge legislative victory, and more significantly, a glide path to this gargantuan $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, legislation that can pass without a single GOP vote, and yet can transform huge sectors of American society, perhaps forever. The Democrats justified the cost of the infrastructure bill by claiming, by the way, it was fully paid for. Well, here's the Wall Street Journal's analysis that just came out tonight. West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin and his Senate Republican friends are stressing that their deal is fully paid for, but read their lips. No new deficit spending, read their bill, though. It relies on a great degree on savings and revenue already baked into the fisc or the Treasury, and that's unlikely to happen. Now, given that we already loaded an unconscionable burden of debt on our kids and our grandkids, and given how fast our economy began to recover from the pandemic, that's good news. A smart path would be for the Romney Group right now to reassess their support for this infrastructure deal, and it includes Mitch McConnell, by the way. Go to the voters, explain how the Democrats changed the rules mid-game, and head into the midterms with a clear message that America just needs to open up for business fully without burdensome mandates, no more accounting gimmicks, and no more legislative games. We're not going to do any of that. Otherwise, we may be rebuilding some bridges, but the country is going nowhere good. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.